All right, so we got Monday the 12th. Here's what we got. We start off with body armor, which is all about stabilization. So number one thing is make sure that they don't let that midline move, right? The overhead squat's kind of more about mobility and stabilization. So make sure they select weights that are light enough to allow them to do it properly. The hollow hold you may have to show, because some people may not know the hollow hold. But that shouldn't be too hard. And then it's set up so they may have to share landmines if it's a decent sized class, and that's easy enough to do. But yeah, they may need 2 dumbbells. There's plenty of dumbbells, so they could use one for the overhead squat, one for the hollow hold floor press. As with everything in these circuits, it can be 10 each side or 10 total, depending on how heavy that weight is for them. The key here is to get some movement and some movement quality up. Then we move on to what's called the dynamic effort day deadlift, right? This is straight out of West Side powerlifting books, because powerlifters do not deadlift outside of competition, right? We do some because we don't deadlift 1,000 pounds, but it is good to be able to work on it without having to pull those heavy weights, because it does take a lot of recovery energy from that deadlift. So the idea behind this is we're gonna have a second pause on each rep. We're gonna go on the minute, second pause, and then explode up at 60%. People make sure they understand that they're going light on purpose. People are like, this is too light. That's the intent of it. It allows us to move the bar fast, which allows us to fire those high-end muscle fibers that normally only get fired at top-end loads, right? So we can train the same stuff that allows us to lift heavy without actually having to lift heavy. If we go in that moderate weight, 80%, you're not going to get that. So 60% for speed, right? 1 second pause, boom, speed up. Easy peasy. Then we go to Lord of the Flies. So essentially it's a ascending weight, descending rep ladder with 30 double unders before each round. So 30 double unders, singles, half dubs, whatever the level is. I would advise that they don't get all their weights out. I would also advise that they make a plan, right? Because you want to start at something light, 25 plus, to something you can do singles of. Some of the lower levels may struggle with some of those weights, so they may need to stay at the same weight at certain points or start a little bit lower, or make smaller jumps. Completely up to them. I'm going to put out some paper and those little pencils so they can I would advise them to have what weight they're going to use, and then try and figure out what they need to put on the bar so they're ready to go, so they're not thinking about it and tearing it, because some of these people will load the first one up and then go blank. So this way they have it all written down, so that will all be out there. Not a super complicated day from an understanding standpoint, but to execute might be a little tricky, so leave yourself some time.